Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back once again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today we're discussing the silver lining of wrestlers leaving. This is a thing. This is a thing that happens. Well, not all the time. I don't want to say all the time, but it does happen quite a bit. People do forget, maybe when some more minor wrestlers leave, or when some wrestlers, turn up for a week or disappear or whatever. And actually, I was thinking about people like Kevin Knight and Kushida, recently, and I was like, they're in and they're out. It sounds like Kushida, he's out of the company for a while now or whatever. Maybe he'll make some appearances or whatever, but it's not like he was a mainstay of the company, and he was a great wrestler. But I always have a problem with just good wrestlers, and he had a all right gimmick, I guess, as well. But I think that it's really tough when you're a person who can't really speak the language, and you can't, like, it's very easy to be a very generic babyface, and in that sense I think that that's the role that he filled, and he did all right with it. And I don't want to just spend all this time on Kushida or whatever. But I just want to say this sort of stuff about Kushida, because I guess he's not really coming back. But again, he wasn't a mainstay of the company, so it really doesn't affect the company all that much that he's might be here, maybe in 6 months or whatever it is, or in 3 more months or whatever it is. He might turn up here and there or whatever it is. But he's sort of done the things that he wanted to do, or he's done the commitments that, they sort of shook hands on, or whatever it was. They've agreed to, he's doing his New Japan stuff, and he's happy doing his New Japan stuff or whatever he's doing there. And that's fine. Look, again, there are wrestlers, Japanese wrestlers, Mexican wrestlers, whatever, any internationally, that can get by without, having to do a whole lot of promo work or whatever. It depends what your character is and how charismatic you are and whatnot. But the silver lining for wrestling fans, in a sense, here, especially here in TNA, is, hey, well, wrestling's sort of a revolving door, in a sense. Like, these people, they come and they go. Well, some people come and they go, but, that main event scene, or that whatever else it is, as soon as, not as soon as, but as soon as somebody's leaving, you virtually have a couple of people at least that you could push into somewhere in that role to try to fill that void. Again, you can, use the resources that you have to, again, say, okay, well, we're going to put our effort into this person or into that person or whatever it is. This is something that I was going to say about Tessa Blanchard too, but I hadn't really thought about it this way. And it seems like, especially since now apparently there's some interest from WWE to bring her in at some point, and I don't know how long of a contract she's signed with TNA, or if she's just on a handshake agreement. But I feel like maybe this is a 6-month thing, roughly thereabouts, for her. Seems something like that. I feel like she's going to do some stuff. She's going to feud with a few people. She's going to do some stuff there and then leave, having put a few people over or whatever. I talked about Josh Alexander, I think, a bit, but the idea of him putting people over and whatnot, and if and Jordan, I think it was, putting some people over on her way out as well. I don't know. There's a few other people that I think I was kind of talking about. I mean, Rhino's leaving, but that dude's been almost always been putting people over. So, and it's not like you're getting that big of a rub really now if you beat Rhino. I don't think that's kind of a doornail at some point. Like, you can only hammer down the people that have, nearly always lost so much, to the point that it's like, well, is there anything in this? And yes, you can tell a story, or sort of, you could do a bit of a promo, and some of those promos can bring new life into you, or depends how you pitch your promo or whatever else it is. But again, it's not like one win or whatever solves anything or whatever. Sometimes a showcased win or whatever else can, really help. But again, it depends on a lot of things. But again, yes, it certainly can be very useful and helpful for these wrestlers to do that. It's certainly not. It's not something that I would say you shouldn't do it, because obviously you should do it. But again, the silver lining of saying Josh Alexander's leaving, the silver lining of saying Jordan Grace is leaving, is saying, well, hey, we've got these other wrestlers here, and, well, now they're going to get a chance to shine, But as before, they perhaps didn't get enough of the spotlight. I know some people were claiming, and we start going through the list of a few people that, could be pushed into that position. I know Tessa Blanchard is going to take up a bit of this, but again, I feel like she is sort of, even if she's there for a year or whatever else it is, I don't know. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But to me, it's a fairly short period. So, but it's got to be medium term at least. So that's why I'm saying like maybe 6 months or something like that. But yeah, like that's that seems to be the plan, at least in my opinion. And she will probably go to WWE after that. I don't know, who knows, or whatever else it is. Again, it's just one of those things that, again, even we said negative publicity is publicity. Like, sometimes unfortunately that is something. And I saw a few people, Booker T, and a few other people saying, hey, let go of it or whatever. And even one of the young girls that apparently she wronged or something or whatever it was, basically taking a selfie with her and saying, yeah, we've mended fences, it's all good. So that is good. Like, again, people can grow and change, and that's the thing. It's like, and people keep going back to saying, TNA is doing a bad thing. Well, what's WWE doing when they're bringing her in? Like, no one's saying anything about WWE bringing her in or whatever else, or potentially bringing her in or whatever else. But and I know I don't want to compare her to Hulk Hogan all the way through, but again, it's just like, well, there was a bit of backlash when Hogan was coming back too, but people realized, hey, well, and I know, she's not on the level of Hogan, but again, it's just like, well, this is business at the end of the day, type thing. This is how business goes sometimes. And, if it was a person that wasn't out there trying or whatever else, I don't want to harp on this for too long, but again, just want to finish this point of saying that if she was out there, or whoever it was out there, and just kept going on and whatever, and it was like, well, you're not really trying, you're not really changing your position, you're not really sorry, don't really care, or whatever else, it's like, some places will work with you or work whatever, but your options are going to be fairly limited. So just in knowing that, just might go, well, for me, for my career, for whatever I'm doing in this business, if I want to get anywhere further than here, I've got to start trying to mend some of those fences, and if personally I don't, sort of feel that sort of thing, it's like, well, Come on, what's going on? Why? What is, and I'm not going to say she's guilty or whatever else. I know whatever some people say, oh, she never did this or she never did that or whatever. Um, or it's not been proven or whatever else, guilty, innocent until proven guilty type things. I'm not going to go into that. Like, again, this is one of those things. But yes, I certainly agree with that sort of sentiment and that sort of statement and that sort of mindset in some ways, because that is true. It is true that, not you're innocent until proven guilty, etc., etc., etc. But again, you know, I know I've had this problem before too myself, where there's smoke, there's fire, and I kind of want to talk about that one of these days, as its own subject in some form or fashion. But I don't know how we can really relate it to wrestling, or TNA wrestling specifically. But then again, they had a few people that were there a while back and whatnot that kind of had, some issues, and where there was smoke, there was fire, and it's just one of those things. It's hard to know 100% of the time or whatever else it is, and investigate these things. It's like, well, so, but yeah, anyway, we've got Tessa Blanchard, we've got these people, we've got like Tessa Blanchard, despite anything else, has a big name in this world of professional wrestling. She accomplished a lot in the TNA Knockouts division when she was there. She was, world champion there. She did a whole lot of great stuff. She's a great wrestler. Don't take anything away from, what she can actually, do in the ring, because that's different. Like I can see where people say, oh, Chris Benoit, he's a dickhead and whatever else because he killed his family. Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that, but he was a great wrestler. I agree that he, perhaps took some liberties here and there, whatever else it was. He was a bit of a bully or whatever else it was, but yeah, I think he was a great wrestler. So, you know, certainly you can't take that away from somebody, and whatever. So his son, I think one of his sons, was looking into getting into wrestling or getting involved in wrestling or whatever. So yeah, there is that aspect to it as well. You've always got to think about the people that are kind of left behind per se, or whatever, um, or the other people that are out there. Um, so yeah, it's not just Tessa or whatever. I have to get off this high horse and keep, or not, but you know what I mean. But we have to move on. We have to finish up this discussion, whatever. But yeah, anyway, right. No, it is one of those things where it's like you look at somebody and you say, well, who is next in line? So who is like, what is the purpose? And this is something, again, that you start looking at, well, what about Marsha and her title run? I like Marsha, but she kind of suffers from the same problem that Kushida kind of has. And even though she's started to speak English now, like here and there, it's like she doesn't really seem to speak English all that much. And yes, there is something to be said in you can be overpowering in your presence, in a sense, like intimidating, and not talk. But talking is what gets the butts in seats, realistically, in a sense. Like, you've got to have those moments or whatever it is, but you've also got to have those promos. You've got to back it. You can't just back up the intimidation without a promo as well. So she's got to do more promos as well as doing some of that, intimidating stuff. I don't know whether I could see Tessa winning the Knockouts Championship again. I don't know, possibly, but I'd at least see her challenging for it. At least that. I would at least expect that she would challenge for the title. And maybe if she does win it, it would be something good. I think in storyline you could start doing something, and you've got a bunch of young wrestlers there. You've got Xia Brookside, and I know she's injured right now, but you've got a lot of young wrestlers that are there. Like you've got Danny and Jody Threat. Like you've got a lot of other fodder talent, I guess, as well. You've got Li Ling Li, who really hasn't done a whole lot of anything, but again, it's like, you know, you've got these other talent, and it's like, well, you've got to start looking at making somebody else the main attraction. And it's like, in a way, I always think that the best attractions are like the heels. That's me. I like it when there's a heel champion and you're trying to see the baby face, overcome the odds or whatever else it is. That's kind of why I'm really starting to lose interest in Nick Nemeth's title run. I'm just like, yeah, if you were heel, I'd be interested, like, because now it's like there's an actual story, and I think you probably should have turned heel at some point already, but like, I don't know. It's really, really tough, and it's just one of those things that is a bit annoying sometimes, that you think to yourself, well, what is the purpose of this? Or maybe it will soon, I don't know. But again, what is the purpose of this? Where is this going? What are you doing? What's the game plan? And trying to analyze it. And we already know the main event of Genesis. We have the distinct knowledge currently that Tessa is perhaps going to work a program with Jordan Grace. I don't know about that. That sounds okay-ish, I guess. I don't know. Again, it sort of feels, I don't know, a little rushed in some ways. I mean, again, I kind of feel bad for Savannah Evans, because she was there and she was doing some stuff, and I feel worse for Kylan King because she's been out injured for friggin' forever, and I wish she could return to action as well soon. But, it's just one of those things. I understand how it is. And friggin' Steph DeLander as well. She's recovering and whatnot. But still, from her surgery, at least she wasn't actually injured. She just had to have surgery. But again, it's just like, you've got that Steph DeLander. You've got these other wrestlers that are on the shelf, unfortunately, and perhaps that does work to like Zaya's favor because she's injured, so she'll be, and I don't know how long she'll be off for or whatever it is. But again, if she comes back in 6 months' time and, well, Tessa's holding the title or whatever situation it is, it's like, well, now's the time to think about pulling that trigger or whatever else it is, and then we can figure something else out from there, like, it depends on what you're looking for. And I don't know whether that's the ultimate solution in a sense, but again, it's just sort of like, well, that's good timing, because it's like she would have gone, whoever it is would have gone through most of the rest of the roster. And even like if it stays on Marsha, she would have gone through most of the rest of the division, and perhaps you can sort of turn her heel or something. I don't know. It's like really tough situation. And I know the knockouts don't have to draw like the men do, but still you have to be something that people really, really want to see, and that sort of thing. It can't just be, oh, I'm here to see the men's match. You can't just be a piss break match or just a thing that, yes, you can wrestle this person and that person or whatever else it is, and you'll have good matches. And again, like, that's where I was like a little bit on the side of like seeing especially when it was on pay-per-view, these, NXT wrestlers coming in to challenge. It was like, well, how have they earned a title shot besides the fact that Jordan's just, giving out title shots? And it's like, well, she hasn't even beaten everyone that's on the roster. But then again, it's like, well, most of the roster is just baby faces, Luna and Threat, and then Alicia, and that was about it. Alicia and the militia. So it was like, well, you know, she hasn't got that many people to work with. So it is a situation sometimes, and it's like, it's always a struggle to use everyone. But the thing is, that's the silver lining, as I was sort of saying. Now that Josh Alexander's not there, now that Jordan Grace is, potentially not going to be there, all this sort of stuff, it's like, well, now we don't have Josh Alexander taking up TV time. So now we have to find somebody else who can take up the TV time. And I think whittling away the wrestlers like Kushida, and he did some good stuff. I don't want to say anything completely negative about the guy, because he could do some stuff and he did have some good moments and whatnot, and they knew how to do some stuff with him. But just like, overall, if you have somebody like that, you really have to know how to present them. Like, and you have to realize that they're more or less a fodder wrestler. They're not there to win a whole lot of matches. Same like with the Laredo Kid. They're just sort of there to be part of the mosaic and help other people get over, in a sense. It sucks, but that's the position you're kind of in, because it's like, well, we need to do this. This is where we need to go. This is what we need to do, or this is what we're thinking of doing and whatnot. So it's just like, well, this is the time to do this, or pull the trigger on that, or to think about this, or whatever else it is. So again, there's always something. You've got, unfortunately, Chris Bay injured, so now what are you going to do with Ace Austin? Well, he can't, he literally can't do anything in the tag team division unless you're going to give him another partner, and that feels really bad to, try to fake it till you make it, or fake it till your injured partner comes back. And if he's going to come back, it's like, that, I don't know how severe his neck injury was, so I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But again, it's just like, you don't know the situation, so you've just got to plan like, well, we've got you, and we want you to do some stuff, and we want, to feature you and your unique story. And perhaps that's, maybe where things are going in maybe 6 months, 8 months, or whatever it is. But again, you can't just sit there and say, well, this is what we're going to, go towards in 8 months or 9 months or whatever else, a year or whatever it is. You've got to go, okay, that's cool. We know where we want to kind of go, and we know when we kind of want to get there. But what are the steps, week to week, month to month, that actually get us there? And you can do all that planning that you want, but will the fans accept it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If it's with Ace Austin, I feel like they will probably accept it, because, they like Ace Austin. They've seen him for the last, 5-6 years or whatever it's been in TNA, and, he's been a mainstay of the company. And like, Josh Alexander was a mainstay of the company there for a while, and so was Jordan. As to say, I don't like to see them going or whatever. I don't, I'm not happy to see them going. I don't, want to see them going or anything like that. I'm not rooting for them to go. I'm just saying, this is what we've been told, and this is what we're hearing, and this is, the situation that we seem to find ourselves in, because, otherwise there are these little signs, as you sort of say, people losing their matches. It's like, well, that's not just because somebody said, oh, you suck suddenly, or whatever it was in the back, or whatever, or they dislike them now, or they did something wrong. Maybe they did, but like, again, 90% that they probably didn't do anything quote unquote wrong, and they're punishing them out there. They're just saying, well, you're leaving, and again, we've got to build up our roster, so we need you to do a few jobs for a few of these people, that are here and that, are going to be here for the next few years or whatever it's going to be, even if it's going to be 6 months. Again, we don't know how long some of these people are going to be here. But I just mentioned Ace Austin there. Potential people in the men's division is a lot easier in some ways. It's a lot harder in some ways, but it's a lot easier in some ways. Unfortunately, Hammerstone is injured. I think his tag team with Jake something was kind of like a sort of wasted effort in some ways. Like, I think they could have been an all right tag team, but honestly, I saw Hammerstone as like nearly a main event guy, and I think a lot of people saw him as like almost a main event guy. And if he was like, dude, I've already done that, I've been there and done that, yeah, sure, okay, and you just want to take it easy or whatever, or you just want to do some stuff and get paid, okay. But again, like, not a lot of people really saw that run or those runs that you had, even though a lot of people were buzzing about them, and Jacob Fatu over there in MLW, and what you guys did down there. But again, like, I just see, even if you're not going to win the title, like, I still think you should win the title at some point, maybe. But again, like, even if you're not going to win the title, like, at least be in the main event. You'll be getting, bigger and better opportunities and bigger and better money and all this sort of stuff. And like, maybe WWE will be on the radar, like, maybe they'll be looking and saying, hey, you want to come over here and reignite with Jacob, like, or do something over here. And, he already went over there to WWE and, put in an appearance. So it's like not impossible to say that he wouldn't, or he wouldn't go there again, or wouldn't do something again, or whatever else it is. I think that he could do some great stuff. But again, it's always like, unfortunately, the situation, But again, he's certainly a pick if he comes back in 6-8 months, whatever else it is. He can go back to doing his tag team, or at least you can touch on it, like, because you can't just ignore that it was happening or whatever else it was. He like, when he comes back or whatever it is, he should come back and Jake's there and like been like, bro, where have you been and whatever else, I'm happy to see you. And he's like, I'm not happy to see you. And he's like, what are you talking about, or whatever, like, well, I've got real business to tend to. I can't be spending my time with you. I want to win the world title here, man. I'm not dealing with you. I didn't really want to be a tag team guy. I wanted to be the main guy, or whatever, Slaps him in the face or whatever, or, and that, or they get into an altercation or whatever, or something, that you could do any number of things in that vein. But again, like, that's what I would want to see. I'd want to see that just little feud, really quick, something to get him started, big win over Jake something, and then moving on to something else, or a couple of big wins over Jake something, and then moving on to something else, like, no pardon the pun there, or whatever, the, using of the same thing there, the same name, whatever. But yeah, like, that's in a few months, so we're not going to focus on that. I just said Ace Austin, great young talent. Maybe it's hard to put him into being a main eventer, really that easy. Like, it's obviously easy to put somebody like Joe Hendry in there. It's easy to put potentially somebody like Santana in there, but it's like, well, you've got to give him the right opponent or opponents as well. You can't, and again, like, this is where, unfortunately, it's a little bit lacking right now in more credible heel wrestlers for some of these people to go up against. So that's a little bit, I do, and it's like, we've been hearing that AJ Francis is potentially leaving too, but he said he might re-sign, so, I kind of crossed my fingers on that, because at least he is a good heel, and, you could get some mileage out of him, even again, you could put the title on him as well. I don't see any problem with that for a while, and then do something with that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. You keep having to look at the position of some of these things, or where some of these things are going or why or whatever and all that sort of stuff. It's always one of those things that, you know, you start having to look at saying, well, what about Kaz? I feel like, again, like, unless, like, if you're going to put the title belt on Kaz, that's good. Let him have the belt for 6 months or whatever else it is. Let him drop it to Joe Hendry at Slammiversary and then, or whatever else it is, and then move on. Because it's freaking time to move on at that point. It really is. Like, because again, it's like, you're only going to have Joe Hendry for a very short period of time on his current contract. Now, maybe you could re-sign him, but WWE seems really interested. And I saw this comment, or heard this comment somewhere, you know, that some people were making that TNA doesn't want to hold on to their talent. Bullshit that they don't want to hold on to their talent, bro. Yes, they want to hold on to their fucking talent. Are you stupid? Like, seriously? Like, yes, they want to hold on to their talent. Come on. Come on, bro. They're not just, you know, rolling out the welcome mat for WWE to steal their talent. It's just really difficult for them to maintain that talent sometimes. Because, again, they get outbid by AEW or WWE. They cannot, you know, outbid WWE or AEW. They can offer something else that WWE and AEW don't offer, which is a lighter work schedule. Yes, you only work every few weeks in the month or whatever else it is. So, you know, most of the time you can have off and you can do what you will with that time up to the date at which they're doing their tapings. And now they're going to have a live episode upcoming early next year, which is an experiment, you know, again, to sort of, and I hope that we can, you know, I think we need to push for that too. We need to push on that, and we'll talk more about it soon. But we need to push more onto that too. But again, we need to find these wrestlers that are in our company, and we know we feel like that Trent Seven's also leaving. So it's like, you know, like the pool of people that we have or had is just shrinking. But again, that gives us the opportunity to say, okay, let's make something of Jake something. And again, I don't love using the double words there. But again, even if you're going to say, well, I don't think personally, again, he's at the level yet where he can be a main event guy. I think that if you decide to say, okay, well, we're going to give him a chance in some of these main events and we're going to do some stuff with him for a little while because we need somebody else to fill in that role. You've got Steve Macklin here. You've got, you know, a bunch of other wrestlers that are here, and it feels like, you know, the only people for them to sort of work with are now, or becoming now, are, you know, Eddie Edwards, Moose, and Brian Myers, and maybe Dirty Dango. So it's like the only couple of people there that have some level of legitimacy are Moose and Eddie Edwards. So, and again, it's tough when you're somebody that's a tag team wrestler, because you're going to be more integrated into that tag team space. And then it's like, well, if we take you away from, you know, you doing your tag team stuff, then, you know, what are the tag team guys going to do? You know, they need a tag team to work with too. And, you know, the system, Myers and Edwards are one of the very few top heel teams. Like, they've got not the Northern Armory, just Judith Sinner and Saint. I couldn't think of their tag team name there for a second, sorry. Yeah, but they've got them young kids there. They haven't really been featured a whole lot. You know, they've got the Good Hands. They've got the Rascals. You You know, you've still got Eric Young there. You've still got a bunch of senior um, talent that can really help those young guys out there. I keep wanting guys like Jerry Lynn and Christopher Daniels and all these guys just to come back to TNA and be like, because they know TNA. They were there in TNA, and I want Abyss, Chris Park back. I want Sanjay Dutt back. I want Rockstar Spud, whatever his name is, back. I want all these guys basically who were part of TNA to be like, yeah, we need to find and Bobby Roode and just like everyone that could be involved previously with TNA back involved, so that it's like, we're not just here because we're the past. We're here because we can help build the present and the future. And we know TNA. We know the soul of TNA. We know what the TNA faithful want, And it's not just saying, well, let's hire 5 people or let's hire 6 people or let's whatever. Yes, you need to hire some people or you need to bring in some people here and there or whatever else it is. But you really need to establish some of these younger guys or some of these other guys that are kind of just there and not really like a major feature to being, higher in the pecking order of some sort, because otherwise you don't have anyone to work with. And that's where things, sort of fall apart. If you don't have a dancing partner, well, now you're in a sort of sticky wicket. You can't be sitting there and sort of I know some people say this wrestler or that wrestler could get a good match out of a broom, but again, you can't really wrestle a broom. It doesn't really, work. I feel like PCO is one of the biggest afterthoughts in there. Aiden Prince, we haven't seen him in friggin' forever. So I'm just going through some of the people that are actually on the roster. Ace Steel, he's mostly in a manager role. Alan Angels, he recently got injured, I think, so he's out for a while. Bhupinder Gujjar, we haven't seen him for friggin' forever either. Campaign Singh, haven't seen him forever since Ali was in the company, and potentially Ali is potentially returning, so that would be good. That would be a very good addition. Cody Deaner, he's a really like lower card fodder wrestler right now, so don't really see much there. Crazy Steve hasn't been around for a long while, but I could see Crazy Steve coming back. That would be good. Havoc, we haven't seen Havoc in forever. Jack Prince, we haven't seen him in forever. So I don't know about that. Jonathan Gresham is potentially leaving. Actually, KC Navarro, I could see KC becoming a good X Division star for a little while. And slowly build him up. Maybe he could even become digital media champion. I could see that he could win that belt at some point. We really haven't seen much of Kevin Knight of late, but I think he'd be a great fit in the X Division too. We'll have to wait and see if he's actually around. Khan, we haven't seen much of him, and he really didn't do a whole lot, unfortunately. I think that they missed the boat on that. I really think they should have, pushed Khan harder. Matt Cardona, he seems like he's doing more stuff with AEW right now, but yeah, okay. It's funny that Mustafa Ali is actually on this one, and so is Rich Swann, so that's interesting. Ryan Nemeth, we haven't really seen a lot of Ryan Nemeth. Callahan, we haven't seen much that Callahan's been doing apart from teaming with PCO of late. Shogun and Shira, haven't seen much of them of late. Tasha Steelz hasn't really gotten a good lot of time to shine, so I'd like to see her do more stuff. Tommy Dreamer's effectively retired, or I would think so at least. And that's pretty much it. So again, like the roster feels very, very thin in some regards, especially with a lot of injuries and with the lack of just like more major talent that you would go, okay, you really have to bring somebody back in. You really have to bring Khan in. What's this 23 business? That's obviously a new wrestler or a new team of some sort, as we sort of speculated. That has to be somebody doing something. Actually, could it be Mustafa Ali? I don't know. That's interesting, actually. That could be interesting. And the fact that that's 23 is or the 23rd is the first live broadcast in 8 years. So I feel like a lot of stuff is potentially going to go down either at Genesis or on that first live show, because again, you start looking at you having to rebuild. You're having to rebuild a whole lot of what you're doing. And, it's really tough. It's really, really tough. Ash and Heather by Elegance, they're really doing their tag team stuff right now. But again, it's more forced tag teams. Killer Kelly, she was pregnant. I'm trying to think of people here that we haven't really covered that we covered before. Yeah, I don't think we've got many people here that I didn't cover in the women's side of things. Some people that are sort of wrestlers or have been wrestlers or have been managers, like Gia Miller, she had been a wrestler or manager. Alicia Edwards, like she's really doing a lot of great manager and heel work as part of the system. But I kind of want to see more from her. I really felt like her rivalry with Marshall was wrapped up way too quickly. And they could have done so much more with her. And it just feels like, again, it's like, well, what's Marsha going to do? She's going to have to start wrestling some of these other people that are in the tag team division. So you've got to Frankenstein your tag team division just to friggin' have people to fight Marsha at some point, unless you're going to bring Havoc back. And I feel like Rosemary, again, she could challenge there at some point, but it's like, well, what are you going to do with Rosemary after that? Because it's like clearly too early in her run, Marsha's run, for her to lose the title. So it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense for her to just lose it in one of the first few defenses, unless you're just like stupid. I don't think they're stupid. They haven't done a lot of stupid things, though some people say that they have, and they do. But again, like some of these issues of saying, we haven't seen this person in a while, we haven't seen that person in a while, or whatever. It gives the chance of saying, well, let's figure out more things. And like, I feel like, again, the digital media title is just so like forgotten about and just so useless that it's like, well, let's just get rid of it and let's just focus on having, it's a bit too much to have to fight for two somewhat major singles male titles. Let's just like get rid of one of them, which is the DMC, and let's just focus on the world title, focus on the tag titles, focus on the X division. Maybe like getting rid of the women's tag titles again. I don't know. It's just one of those things. But yeah, it really would feel better if it was a full just singles division there as well. I don't even know that the men's side 100% can keep up with the fact that, they've only got a few teams. Um, though I feel like Icarus and Williams, they're a pretty decent young tag team. Um, the Good Hands, they're a decent tag team, but they just haven't gotten any wins and they've got no legitimacy. So it's like, well, you know, what are you gonna do? So you've got to start figuring out, you know, where these guys are going to fit in, like, and you can't just keep, guys like Eric Young or Eddie Edwards, they're there and they're very, uh, accomplished in many ways, but you've got to move on. You've got to start going. Okay, we've got to give the rub to some of these people, but we've got to bring in more wrestlers. There's just not enough wrestlers that we can work with, that we have access to, that can do what we need. Again, that's why I feel like you need to get rid of something, or you need to get rid of a few things and boil things down a little bit, just so that and even if you debut a few more people, it's like, well, you still need to boil things down a whole lot to make the divisions sort of more stacked but more even. Everyone needs opponents. Like, it feels like Nick Nemeth hasn't really gotten any other opponents to really fight after he fights Hendry. Like, maybe, like, it depends. Like, as I said, I feel like I kind of know where that might be going, but I might be wrong. But again, it's just like, well, Nick was here to do a job in a way, and he could still do that job if he's, decides to stick around. He could still help out the company even though he's not the champ. He doesn't need to be the main focus of the company. I think that they showcased what they can do with Nick. Like, they did that with Trinity. She came and she went back to WWE. Maybe Nemeth will go back to WWE. I don't know. Maybe he'll go to AEW. I don't know. Maybe he'll keep doing the indie thing. I don't know. It's up to him. He's just there on virtually a handshake agreement. I kind of want to see Mustafa Ali come back and kind of beat him. That kind of would be cool. I would kind of dig that, or at least win the title or whatever. I could see him being a really good champion and doing some great stuff there. Um, yeah. So like, everything feels super super thin, and it's like, well, you know, where from here? What's next? And I'm trying to count up the number of people that are, you know, leaving, and there's quite a few, or have been injured. So it's almost like half the roster, or even people that you haven't sort of seen for a long time. It's like more than half the roster. So, yeah, just like, even just bringing back some of those like wrestlers that aren't injured, that haven't been around for a while: Aiden Prince, Bhupinder Gujjar, Campaign Singh, Crazy Steve, Havoc, Jack Price, Kevin Knight, Khan. Can't really get Matt Cardona, but Mustafa Ali, Ryan Nemeth, Shira and Shogun. I know we can't really get Steph DeLander because she's injured or she's recovering. I suppose we could actually get her back and like doing some stuff. Can't get Zaya Brookside. She's injured, so can't really get her back. We don't know the situation with Kylan King. So Killer Kelly, though she's still on, like, I guess, maternity leave or whatever else it is. Though again, she had that baby a while back now, I think, and it's like time to renew a rivalry with Slamovich. That actually kind of would be really good. I think like just bring her back to feud with Slamovich, even if it's like for a few weeks or for a few months or for a single one-off thing, and then say, okay, now you can go back to doing what you were doing and baby stuff or whatever else it is. Um, you've just got to bring in people just to feud with her just for a little while. So I think I would dig Kelly way more in the role of the champion. Um, I think the best champions are the champions that you can build stories and feuds and stuff around. Um, and usually that's the heel. Just from my perspective. Um, yeah. But that's where we're at right now. I feel like, guys, we love to push for TNA. We love for them to get better and do the best as what they can, but like, and like you can go too far the other way of having too many people, and like, especially like too many people who don't give a shit, like, or whatever. You see guys like Miro or what's his name, Ricky Starks, and some of these other wrestlers that have kind of been floating around in AEW, and it's like, I kind of would like to see what Miro could do in TNA. I would like to see if he could, be a big deal in TNA. I think he would be a big deal in TNA because, like, again, like, there's so much opportunity in TNA in comparison to almost anywhere else. You would have a very, like, anyone that comes to TNA now, like, will have a very good spot. Like, if you're a major star or can be a major star or can be a major draw for the company, somebody like Miro could be a really good draw for the company. And, they could do some great stuff with a guy like that. Like Ricky Starks, I think that they could do something great with him. Maybe he wants to go back to or he wants to go to WE, but hey, that's up to him. Same with Miro, like, or anyone else. Like, a lot of these people, unfortunately, the problem is, again, almost everyone wants to seem to go to WWE, but the thing is, it's like, well, WWE is just as full as AEW is, or if not more so, in some ways. There's not a lot of opportunities there for you to find a space in there to really do a whole lot. Yes, there are some, but again, it's not as much as what would be perceptible in some ways. And again, if you went to TNA, like, you'd have a mountain of, opportunities because, well, it's not like there's no one there, but it's like, well, they're just losing half their roster or a whole bunch of people. Some of that's due to injury, or some of that's due to surgery, or some of that's due to X, Y, or Z, or whatever, just contracts expiring or whatever else it is. So now they're like, well, we need to refill those, gaps in our wrestling company. We can't just run on 2 or 3 wrestlers, and maybe we have to condense some of these things down because, like, we just don't have enough people to keep everything running or keep everything moving or keep things consistent enough to where they're really good. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things of getting back to who's out there, who can we bring in, and what can we do with them, and are we actually going to put in the effort to them? Because again, it felt like they had something with Khan when he was coming back and doing his single stuff, but then they were just like, nah, and they brought Mad Fulton back a while back as well, and they brought Khan back a while back as well. Like, he had a couple of appearances here and there, but again, it's like, you need to make some of these guys a really big deal. Like, like, if somebody beats them, it should be a really big deal. Like, and maybe you can make them a guy that's only turns up every 3 months or 6 months or every year or whatever else it is. And then, there's this big thing of like, holy crap, these two big guys are going to fight, whatever else it is. These two, attraction guys are going to fight. Who's going to win or whatever? Well, it's probably going to be this guy because he's actually on the roster every single week or whatever else it is. Well, maybe, but, like, what if in 6 months' time, a year's time, they've have a rematch or something? Like, yeah, match 2 Electric Boogaloo, like, so you've got that kind of story there of like redemption for this person or whatever else it is. It's a little bit more than just they have a match, they wrestle, they do stuff, like, that's great, but you need more. And as I said, like, no offense to anyone like Kushida or whoever else, like, but some of these other people, like, again, like, got to think like, well, you can't be, and sometimes the opportunities that you're given, but you really got to show something, and just because you're a good wrestler and a good worker or whatever else it is doesn't mean shit if you can't, again, have the other thing. You need to be, you need to be a character more than you need to be a great character more than you need to be a great wrestler. Because you can get by with some of the fundamentals and some, trickery or whatever else it is, and, a lot of hard work rather than, just like having to be the greatest wrestler, but you can't get by without having something. You don't have to be the most charismatic babyface, or whatever, you don't have to be the baddest heel or the chicken shit heel or whatever else it is. Whatever it is that you bring to the table, but you have to be like marketable in that way, and you have to be like willing to get your butt out there and shill effectively. And that's what, like, you look at Mike Santana of late. That's what he's doing, because he knows, like, this is what it takes. It doesn't take, and he's a great character in a lot of ways. He's matured and he's come into himself, and he's got that it factor, and you can kind of feel it. You can kind of see this guy is a main event guy now, or he's getting to that level of being a real main event guy. But he's not just, walking that walk or looking like he's got the right look or whatever else. He's actually out there and going, okay, I've got to do all this promotional work. I've got to, get my face out there. I've got to, if I really want this thing, I've got to be, making waves and making noise and getting people to buy those tickets to try to come and see me and want to see me take that belt, like, that's what I've got to work for. And that's what Joe Hendry's been doing. I think he's done like the best job of anyone, and it's like, well, it sounds like it's almost time to put that belt on that boy, because it's like, or at least start looking like we're going to do it, or it's going to happen at some point, because it's like, well, where else is he going to go, type thing. So you've got to have these little things that keep the fans invested, but you've also got to keep those, those things going up. And it's been up for TNA in 2024. 2025 is on its way. It's probably going to be here by the time this episode comes out. So, yeah. But, we've got to work hard on the fam side here. Us TNA fam, we work as hard as the wrestlers work sometimes to get the word out there, do as much as what we can, discuss, talk about, promote, critique, whatever the product, and try to make it as best as what we can, so that the people that are there and the product that we're watching is as good as it can be, and we can enjoy it to its fullest level, and that it reaches as many people and as many people can enjoy it as possible. So that's what we get out of it. We get the best product that we can enjoy, and the best the product people seeing this product and going, holy crap, TNA is really good, and I need to tell all my friends about it. Like, maybe like they can improve this or they can improve that, but overall it's like really good and it's really underrated still. Like, so we need to get that out there, and we need to try to see what we can do in the next year. So guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I know it's a long one. I always have these long ones sometimes, but again, it is the way it goes. So I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you guys have a great New Year's, and I hope you guys will join me again in another one.